Authenticity means, you're authentic, but you need to be a good role model. So what do I mean by that is of course you need to communicate with your team. You need to set up, a strategy and ambition, objectives and goals, etc. So you state that, but then you just really need to roll up the sleeve and act and make sure that your action actually follow your words. Current models are not sustainable, right? I think we all know that, and access to innovations remain very important, and there is such a disparity of access to medicines and innovations specifically across different countries and even in developed markets. I wish we could just bring the key actors around the table and continue to the dialogue to make sure we push the lines and address the limits of the current system. The equation has changed. So it's very complex, but we need everybody to take responsibility and try different things. So that's really what I hope, because we owe that to society, actually.
Welcome everyone on this new episode of Pharma Minds podcast. Today I'm very happy to welcome Julie Puype. Hello Julie.
Hello Nathalie, very glad to be here with you today.
Thank you. Julie, she's a great leader with an amazing career. She's worked in commercials in different companies, starting with Schering-Plough, MSD, Takeda, Mundi Pharma, and in different countries, Belgium, US, Switzerland, France. And yes, different level of responsibilities, local, global, European. And today is a special moment in your career because you're making a pause, a break, since a few months. And yes, that's why I'm really interested to have this discussion with you, because I think it's interesting. It's really, rare to have someone, an executive leader, male or female, we'd like to talk about this kind of moments, and we'd like to be open to discuss of ongoing stories. And in this moment, we are on a season in Pharma Minds talking about long-term impact and sustainability also. And I think it's interesting to have these discussions about people also.
Yeah, thank you, Nathalie, for the opportunity. I'm very happy to be here with you and to share whatever I can share of my story, of my journey, of the ups and downs, and hopefully someone can pick up something. And if it's just relating to what I've done or I've accomplished or I've gone through, or even inspiring some people, that's really that's why I'm really happy to share that.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's really brave to have this attitude. And we'll talk about a long-lasting career with ambition for a female, and about finding a balance somewhere with work and life. And just to start, I would like maybe to start with a quite fun fact, but fun fact for pharma is when you started your career, your first job, you told me it was in regulatory affairs. And I think it's funny to start in regulations and having a career in business finally.
Yeah, so happy to tell you a bit about.
Yes, I would like to dive into this moment, this period of. You started. You were really young.
Yeah, I was freshly graduated from the University of Lille in the north of France. Where
you're a pharmacist.
Yeah, I'm a pharmacist. I went for 6 years of PharmD. And I actually started my studies inspired by my grandfather, who had a pharmacy in a rural part in northern France. And then my dad was a doctor as well. So I was always gravitating towards healthcare. And I knew I didn't want to be a doctor, but pharmacy was really, something I've been wanting to do in a very young age. And actually to have a pharmacy and have a retail store and in France and provide patients with their needed medications. So that's really what drove me into the pharmacy path.
Okay.
And then after a couple of years and doing some summer jobs in pharmacies, I said, okay, that's really great, but maybe there is something else I could do. So I was actually always very curious to talk to people and understand experiences and opportunities. And I decided, to do a sort of a parallel degree in regulatory affairs during my 6 years of pharmacy. And an encounter really happened, those rencontre, as we say, where one of the professor was actually a managing director of Sharing Europe in Belgium. And he gave a very interesting course. And I said, oh, I've got to talk to this man because it looks like there is so much to learn from him. So after class, I dared to stand up and said, hey, I'd like to talk to you. I'm Julie. Could we have a chat? And can you tell me more about what you do? And that's probably a first message I'd like to share here today is, just dare to talk to people. And
open doors, yeah.
Exactly,
push.
Open doors and push. What's the risk you take? That people just say no or don't open the door? Well, then that's fine. You go to the next one. And very kindly said, sure, just come to Brussels, to Belgium, next week. And then we have lunch and then I'll tell you more. So that was, really my venture outside of France, driving to Brussels and talking to him. And then that was the first opportunity for internship. And then actually that's that first boss who was a very kind mentor that gave me my first opportunity in Sharing Plough to work in regulatory affairs. And I thought that's great, And what he taught me very early on, I was, 25 back then, was, Julie, people think regulatory affairs, it's kind of boring. We're in dossier and, just working on tons of papers. He said,
it's a dark office.
Yeah, it's absolutely not that. He said you have to shape the environment, you have to meet your customers, you have to know your customers, internal and external, and then you need to really contribute to, shaping the future and provide a framework where, innovative products can be registered, as fast as possible in Europe in a safe way to give access to patients. And those were those words. I was 26 and I was like, wow, I never thought of it that way. And that's still really with me forever because that sort of guidance he gave, you could apply actually in any role, right? Who are your customers, internal, external? What's the impact you seek to have? What's the purpose you want to have, right? And that has really stayed with me and really provided a great first experience. And also the power of mentorship and providing opportunity, right? He sort of placed a bet on me. Saying, look, I was really not that experienced at all. My English was very bad, actually. I was studying pharmacy for 6 years, didn't have any class in English. And but he believed in me.
Yeah.
And he gave me that chance. And then there I was, first
and you
job.
felt, yes, quite comfortable to go on and try?
Yeah, because I felt, wow, that sounds so exciting. I have so much to learn. But I also felt there was an environment around me that would be conducive to that learning, where I just felt safe, and there was a safe environment and an ecosystem where, I could probably thrive. And actually, I was right.
Yes, and then you had no other choice, no other options. You wanted to continue and yes.
And went for it. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So I stayed there for 3 years, learned a lot. I was, at the EMA. Each time we had files being reviewed for Sharing Plough, I developed great relationships internally, and I talked to the commercial people a lot. And I mentioned that because it's important for the sort of the continuation of my career. When it said, external customer, I understood who those were, and internal were actually people in commercial who were keen to have a good label, an SMPC, to be able to commercialize the drug effectively. So I was really, in connection with those global marketing and commercial people in the headquarters in the US to make sure I would keep them updated about where is the dossier, what was the latest feedback from the assessors in Europe, and what was the timing. And they were really sharing with me what was really important for them. And I was just trying to be really that voice, making sure that we would negotiate the best label for patients and the company. So that really was a great step.
Yeah, it's interesting. And yes, we see the importance of, finding a mentor as soon as possible or
exactly,
or as late as possible, but find one.
Always, yeah.
Okay, and then how it works? You start in commercial or you jump to another country?
Yeah, so I actually did both.
Yeah.
So I stayed there for 3 years. It was a fantastic opportunity. And then I sort of, after 3 years, I said, okay, what else, right? What else? And I was really very keen to continue learning. And I had developed a good network in the US, in the headquarters. And I said, why not? Which is probably another message, where throughout my career, one of the key questions I asked myself, when I had opportunities is why not? Why not do that? And very often when you ask yourself that, you're just like, well, actually, there is no reason why I should not do that. So let's go for it.
Because I would not be at the level we expect me. Or
Yeah, why not? Why should not I do that? So, and when at that pivotal moment, I actually met my partner, who is now my husband, Peter, and then we both had an opportunity to move to the US and for assignments. And that's where I basically had the choice to either continue in regulatory affairs in the headquarters or work in clinical research. There was a CRA position in New Jersey, New York. Or then, actually building on the relationship I had developed internally in commercial, I got to talk to the global marketing vice president, and with a bit of a push of my mentor, who also became a very good sponsor. I was given an opportunity for a rotation of 2 years, so 6 months rotations in the headquarters in commercial to learn on the job and develop my commercial capability. And then I said, look, we take you on 6 months rotations and then we see how you perform and we go from there. I was like, you know what? Great. That's such a great opportunity. Let's do that. So that's what got us to move in 2000 to the US in New Jersey and establish, a next step of our career
Not for
there.
6 months.
Yeah, exactly. That was initially for 2 or 3 years, actually.
Okay.
My husband had an assignment for 2 or 3 years, and we said, okay, why not? Discover the life in New Jersey, New York. Great opportunity for us. So we went for it.
Yes, you talk a bit about this, living there and the difference. But today, yes, I've seen people name you as an international French person.
Yeah.
What it means?
Yeah, I love that, actually. It was last year when I was talking to one of the headhunter and said, Julie, you're just an international French and there are not so many. So you should really capitalize on that. And I was like, oh, okay, I never thought of it that way. But yeah, I think it's a good way to describe me. I'm French, of course, by background. I grew up in a very loving family in France. And I love France. I love my country. And I have a very strong tie there still. And all my 3 kids are also French and feel French, specifically when they're in France. Yeah. But then I lived in Belgium for 3 years and then married a Flemish-speaking husband. So I was from the Flemish-speaking part of Belgium. So actually French was not necessarily the language we would speak together. English was probably easier for both of us. And then we lived in the US, actually not for 3 years, but for 12. So when you set up sort of, camp in a country for 12 years, you really become, part of the country. And we were integrated in life in New Jersey. We had, we lived in a great neighborhood, made really very good friends, life-lasting friendships. And that gives you a different perspective also, to the way I probably would have continued my career just staying in France. So, and then after 12 years, we moved to Switzerland. So now we're in Switzerland for 12 years, even though I had a job in France for 2 years. So I think it's a good way to describe me because I've lived in Belgium, US, Switzerland, and France. And that gives me a different, probably a bit of an international perspective.
Yeah. And how can you describe this? Where does it help you?
Where does it help me? Well, I think it helps me probably to relate to different cultures and understand that there are cultural differences. And also an opportunity to work for Takeda, a Japanese company, where I had limited but still interaction with, the Japanese colleagues. So I think it makes you aware. I think awareness is the right first word that comes to my mind. But that people might interact with you differently, and that's because of their cultural heritage or the way they've been educated or the origin that they have. And I think it has cultivated probably a very open mind on my side, to be open-minded for discovering and curious about getting to know new people, understanding their background, understanding what matters to them. And also discovering new environments, frankly. If it's also traveling around to
understanding
discover
complexity, probably also.
Yeah, exactly. So, a good example is also when we relocated from the US to Switzerland. So it was in 2012. So it's nearly, it's 12 and a half years ago. It was a very, very different environment, where, growing up and our kids were very young at that age, 5, 7, and 9. And we grew up in a very nice neighborhood in New Jersey where you have a lot of space. Kids go to the local school, and you're really part of the of your town's life, day-to-day life. And then we arrived in Switzerland, German-speaking part, in Lucerne, in a smaller apartment. And it was just an adjustment. You don't understand people talking in the street. You don't understand your neighbors because you just don't speak Swiss German. And it's the whole life needs to be set up again from a professional but also personal point of view. So you have, you developed probably also some more understanding and
resilience
as well. And you have to adapt. And I think at the beginning, you just feel sad about what you left behind.
Yes.
And then at some point, you just realize the opportunities that you have ahead. And we talked a lot about our young kids because they were actually not very happy at the beginning that we were, we had moved. And they realized as well, we preferred our life in New Jersey. And it was a great change management for them to go through the process. And we had a fantastic 12 years in Switzerland now. Where you realize exactly the opportunities you have ahead of you, even if what you had in the past remains with you forever. You actually realize that you are closer to family. You are living in Central Europe where you can go anywhere, and it's just different experiences. And I think made our life both professionally and personally so much richer. Also to learn to adapt and be more flexible and find your way and find a path in despite sometimes adversity and difficulties that, frankly, you can overcome.
Yes, and you had in mind, okay, your future will be somewhere else. You wanted to change. Why did you move from the
US to Switzerland?
Yes, to go back in Europe.
So we were in the US 12 years, and so Peter, my husband, works also in pharma. So we had, managing two careers.
Which is something also interesting.
Yeah, exactly. And one advice I give to my kids now, young adults, they are now 17, 19, and 21. One advice I give them is be very wise in choosing your life partner. Because I wouldn't be where I am today, both from a personal and professional point of view, if I didn't choose my husband, and so it's a very important choice they have, and some people have to make in their life, and that's what I tell them. I say, if you want to build your personal and professional life, you need to choose your life partner very wisely.
Yeah. And you tell them for girls and boys.
Both, absolutely, both, exactly. And so you have a lot of things you need to discuss beforehand. Don't take it for granted because you've seen sort of a model at home that model, maybe you don't even want to replicate that model. It's a different question. Yes. But don't assume that what, you've gone through is sort of, the norm for everyone. Yeah. So just make sure you're really open and that you discuss that. And they actually take that input. So so let's see.
Actually, maybe they have already seen this.
yeah, yes, maybe, exactly.
Yeah. And for you, okay, maybe it's a bit personal and early in the conversation, but did you have any moments where you say, okay, I have to not fight, but impose myself in front of a male career or in front of my husband's career? Because
not with my husband specifically, not at all.
Yes,
actually, and that's really why I say
because it can happen also.
Yeah, it can happen. But actually, we've been really the way I like to characterize this is a team. Okay. So we've been a great team, and when you live, actually, as we were actually as in the US as we call it, DINK, so double income, no kids at the time. So it was super nice. We lived, in Hoboken, New Jersey, right across New York, and really enjoyed a great couple of years. And then when we started to found a family, well, guess what? It was just my husband and I. There was no one else around us, no family. All right, so we just had to make it work. Yeah. And again, I say I'm very fortunate that my husband really chimed in, and it was not, Julie will drop at daycare or Julie will do this. We really were in this together, and that's what made the difference. Yeah. So when one baby was sick. Look, there was, way before COVID. So the norm was to be in the corporate building, right? To be in the office every day, actually very early in the US. So we had just to agree on, okay, who's going to take the baby to the pediatrician and then probably take half a day or just be late and manage it. And we took turns. We said, okay.
And for career changes?
For career changes as well, actually. Yeah. It worked very well where,
by chance? Or by...
Well, opportunities came, and I think timing was important, but we were very thoughtful about that to say, when one takes a new job, the other one will probably do more of quarterbacking at home. Mm-hmm. And I have many different examples actually. When we actually going back to the move from the US to Switzerland, we had the opportunity to actually stay in the US or to both have a job in Switzerland, and namely in Zug and Lucerne, which is really quite rare to be able to transition to jobs at the same time. Yeah. And it was a very difficult decision because we loved the life in the US, and it's almost like we had to flip a coin. But then again, we said, why not? And if we don't do it now, then probably we stay in the US and then we have first generation American kids and so on. We won't do it later. So that's why we decided to go for that adventure and then leave the US chapter behind and go to something else. And so then Peter went for a new job. And then I said, okay, just go for it. He was traveling a lot. And then I said, okay, I'll take care. I transitioned actually my job from the US to Europe, which was easier for me because I had a team based in Switzerland. So it meant a bit less travel with young kids. And then I said, look, I take care of setting us up in Switzerland. And then you just go and start your new job. So the other example is when I got provided the opportunity to be GM for Takeda in France, where actually my husband said, look, just go for it. It's a great opportunity. First job in your home country and great opportunity to merge two companies in a complex market. So it would be an important turning point for your career. So just go and do it. And then I'll quarterback
if home. It's not the same country of your family.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, so I commuted, to Paris from Monday to Friday very often. Sometimes I would come home Thursday night, but very often I had to be in the office because we had two companies to merge and come together, so two different offices. And as a GM, I needed to be present. I needed to be there for the team. So
and in this moment, didn't you felt that maybe why you wanted to do this absolutely, or was it for your career? That's because you decided to put your career first before your family, or how did you?
It's a good question, and some people in France also told me, "How do you do this?" With the kids. They were a bit older.
I guess it's always a struggle. But
yeah, it's always a struggle, but. At some point, I felt, it was a great opportunity to work in a core market. I had been GM Switzerland for 3 years, and it was not. I never asked for that job actually, so I never even thought, that would be an opportunity. I thought I would do another job based in Switzerland. But when they came and said, "Look, we'd like you to do this," I said, "Oh wow, I never thought of it." So it was a very long reflection time, where we really talked, a lot with my husband and the kids actually. Yes. So it was a family decision. It was not Julie's ambitious decision, where I felt very supported, where my husband and my 3 kids said, "You just have to go for it, Mom. It sounds like a great opportunity. So just do it." Maybe for the kids, they didn't fully realize the implications of it because have they missed me when I was traveling to Paris? Of course they have, right? And even though you try to remain present through, virtual calls and FaceTimes and whatnot, it's just not the same not to have Mom at home. So actually, COVID was a blessing in that regard because then we had to manage COVID, and then being present in the office became a bit less relevant. So I could do more from Switzerland, but still, I showed up in the Paris office and had to commute regularly. But I think it was a decision to both, to say, okay, I continue to my career because it makes sense, but I felt it was not a full trade-off for the family because the family bought it and actually motivated me to do it.
Yes.
So that made the difference for me. Yeah.
I often hear that from women leaders, and they talk a lot about their career, their professional life to their kids.
Yeah.
Yes, and they have like a conversation or at least an explanation to say why they want to invest that time into that and why it makes them happy.
Yeah. No, I do that a lot, actually. I do that a lot. So I talk a lot about, my job and the people I work with and my good experiences and the challenging experiences and so on to the children. And I think they actually enjoy that. And hopefully it also provides learning opportunities for them.
Yes.
As to, the people and the professionals they aspire to become or not.
Yes.
And hopefully it's inspirational and motivational for them to hear about some of our professional lives.
Yes, and I'm also thinking about you and the feeling you can have when you lead a team and you feel you're supported by your family, by your kids. It's not the same as if you take your decision despite all the family advice.
Yeah, no, exactly. I agree. Which is why I really never felt I was, making decisions or
having 2 lives.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I always think, that if things go well at home, you can show up in the best way at work, and that if things don't go well at work, it can have implication in your personal lives. And I don't think it's really completely split and separated, and that they are two silos. I think they are intertwined, and then it's just a matter of how you manage, that zone, and how you can really separate. But
I think it's really impressive how you describe it, and because I think it's things which are more and more happening now in these years, and it seems you have lived like this since, maybe all your career.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I won't say it's maybe more female leader attitude, but I feel it's maybe easier for women to bring her family and bring her personal life into this professional decision.
I think so too. I think so too. It's a good point, Natalie, you raised, because I think as mothers, taking care of the children is part of who we are, and I think that's also why maybe there are, as women, we bring, I think, empathy and perhaps care as well. And it's not to say that men don't do that, because I certainly don't.
Yes. I won't go into cliches.
No, exactly.
I think your husband took a lot of things at home.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely, he did, actually.
Yeah.
He did a lot.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
That's why, for me, there's no cliche, and it's all about expectations and communication and harmony, and also choices.
Yes.
Right? And I think we've always tried to be very thoughtful about the choices we've made, and always do it with a lot of discussion and hearing, everyone out, and making it as a team. That's why I go back to the team, and when I would be at work or would I be traveling, then it's so important to have the support team at home to quarterback and make sure that the things that I could not do at home, someone else trusted
for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Would provide that, and that's really for me a key to success. Frankly, yeah.
Okay, I would like to talk about leadership a bit, because I think with all this context, it's interesting to have your idea. You explained maybe this a bit, but what made you a successful leader, you would say? Maybe also this.
Successful leader.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a journey, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if I could qualify myself as a successful leader. I think I'm on the journey of learning about leadership. And I don't think it's necessarily something you learn in manuals or in school. I think, for me...
But I think when I say successful, it means, yes, you feel comfortable, I would say, by leading.
I love leading
and
teams
you feel,
and business.
Yeah. And I would say, you won't be here if you didn't like to share and
talk about that,
and to push and to motivate others.
No, exactly. I love, if again by sharing here my journey, I can inspire and make people believe, what we can achieve. That would be a great outcome for me. So leadership, So I think I've really learned through different experiences, and I think one key takeaway I have is, who we are is how we lead, and that comes from Brené Brown, and that really deeply resonated with me. And I think for me, that's really the sole definition of authentic leadership. You can only be authentic in the way we lead if you show up as who you are.
Yes, but by action.
Well,
with actions.
by talking and by acting.
Yeah.
And that brings me to sort of, how I've developed my sort of leadership signature or leadership style. One, key pillar for me is role modeling. And authenticity means, you're authentic, but you need to be a good role model. Okay. So what do I mean by that is of course, you need to communicate with your team. You need to set up, a strategy and ambition, and objectives and goals, etc. So you state that, but then you just really need to roll up the sleeve and act, and make sure that your action actually follow your words. And that's also true in terms of the what we want to achieve or accomplish together, but the how we do it, right? And then I would like to add the why, because then it's sort of the virtual circle of what we need to do, the how we do it, so what are the behaviors by which we will accomplish that, but then the why, right? It goes back to the why, and of course it's Simon Sinek. It's the why we do things is bringing the purpose, and I think when you clearly explain, and build a shared purpose. Okay. That's how you can motivate,
with transparency and
motivate and mobilize teams, and making sure that as a leader, I hold myself accountable to doing what I preach we should do. Because if I say something and I do the opposite, then frankly, that's not how you build trust and how you can.
Yeah, and if we dive into an example, maybe you had some transformation to do, because in pharma I think it's quite common. Yeah, and can you share maybe some examples you had during a transformation you had to make? Or
yeah, sure. So maybe the example would be when I moved to France to be the GM, and then lead the integration of Takeda and Shire, that were fundamentally two different companies, different cultures, different portfolios, different operating models. So it was very different. And then you go from what's existing in two different offices, and then you need to build one team, align, under, of course, the one Takeda, which was the acquiring company. So the Takeda values, of course, were the one that we would embrace. So you need to build, something new from existing, and make sure that you bring everybody along. So and that's really also what I've really developed a passion for, which is transformational change and drive transformation, and deliver, of course, on what you need to achieve, being business results and impact. But also the human component of change, which I found, fascinating. It's easy just to deliver results and so on, but then how do you bring people along, and that you bring people that buy into the transformation and why they should do this, and why do we need to change the way they work or adhere to something different. So I think it was, a great example. I came in and I integrating Takeda Shire. I remember day one, it was in January 2019. Standing up in front of 500 people, where it was actually my first town hall in French, and it was very difficult. But I stated that to the team. I didn't know really anyone. And I said, look, all of my career I've spoken in English. So it's the first time I have to address you and do a town hall in French. So it's going to be a bit challenging for me. But that defines also my leadership, is being transparent. And being honest, and exactly being vulnerable. Saying, look, I'm not here, I don't know everything. Actually, town hall in French is a learning opportunity for me. So give me a couple of weeks, I commit that I will use less and less English words when I speak to you, but probably I will use a few. So don't be annoyed, or I ask for your patience and your understanding. And to this day, the amount of, the impact that those words had on the audience were actually quite profound. And even to this day, some people said, hey, I remember when, that has such an impact, that you were so humble and so honest in saying. So so that was, I think a good example. And then you need to explain, okay, so what are we here to do? We're here to integrate two companies, and how are we going to do that? So here is, a roadmap on how we will do that. I don't have all the answers now. There is uncertainty around the timing, around how we will technically do it, but I commit to keeping you informed. When I don't know, I will tell you that I don't know yet, and as soon as I know, I will share it with you. So, and we will be in this together, and let's never forget, what we are here for is to help patients get better and provide our medicines to patients every single day. That is our common sense of purpose, and to build, a sustainable and reliable company and team that will continue to do that for French patients. And that was really the anchor, and building shared purpose, and then getting, people ready on the journey together. So yeah, that was a fantastic experience and a great journey.
And yes, then it happened well. It was a good time.
Yeah, it was challenging.
Yeah.
It was hard. It was hard.
Yeah.
You know a little bit about the French environment and French context. So it was really hard work.
Yeah.
I tried to build the best team. Picking legacy for me was not really important. I just really wanted to make sure I would build the best team with some good diversity. And bringing really the capabilities that we needed. So it was hard work. It was not easy. I had ups and downs, and had to build resilience and keep a positive mind, but we managed. We managed. So I was really proud of what the team has achieved collectively.
Yes, with above your personal challenges.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And can you share maybe one, I don't know, maybe your hardest challenge in leadership?
Maybe. My other challenge in leadership.
Yes, maybe the one who helped you to learn.
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest challenge in leadership was, what I had to learn when I first became GM was, it's easy to set an agenda or a goal, or to say, look, this is what we want to achieve, or this is what we want to become, and then to go fast. But then, when you move, you just need to make sure that the rest of your team and your organization is jumped on the train with you. And that was, during my first assignments, in Switzerland as the GM, where I really had to take a step back and then pause and just make sure that I would spend much more time to engage with the team, communicate, explain, and so on. And that was, with an early feedback I had received from one of my managers that says, look, just make sure that you bring people along with you on the journey.
Okay.
And that I never forgot. And actually was really also a foundation to how I developed my leadership, where I became much more aware of the importance of the interaction I had with the team, to explain the why, to connect in a broad level in the organization, not only my leadership team, but make sure I would show up and be visible with, the key account manager, with the MSL, with everyone, to make sure that they relate and that we connect and that they jump on the train with me. So that was a good lesson.
Yes. Yeah. To at least to show and to be here to keep them motivated.
Yeah, to engage. And that became very relevant actually when we had to manage the pandemic, where actually you could not have the coffee machine conversations. I made a very, very deliberate and thoughtful decision and effort to connect as much as possible throughout the organization, actually. Not only my leadership team or direct report or peers, but also quite deep in the organization to make sure I would actually hear how people were doing. Yeah. But I would also understand, the needs and in this virtual environment, that I would show that I care. And I think one of the lessons or the realization I had is that you can have high expectation and challenge people and be demanding, but you can do it in a very caring and empathetic way. And that's really, I think, the right balance that I always try to apply, to say, look, I have an expectation, I want to achieve, I'm an achiever, I like to deliver results, but just do it in a way that actually constructively challenge people and do it in a respectful way. So that's also that I try to balance.
Did you have any mentors or people to talk about this along the way, or?
Yeah. I've been very lucky to have a number of mentors throughout my career. So that has been helpful, and also received the feedback.
Yes.
Right. Okay. On the things that, when you would move to a new job and have, first time you lead a team, it's not easy, right? It's a big step to go from individual contributor to leading people, because you need to take a step back. You need to empower and coach and just make sure that the job gets done, but maybe in a different way that you would do it yourself. So it's really, and I'm quite, an action-oriented person. I like to impact and get stuff done, but I had really to lean back, not lean in for once, but lean back and just make sure that you play the coach and that you empower people to do it in their own way. So I've learned that through feedback I've received and then advice I've received from some mentors. So I would also really strongly advise for people, reach out to people, seek advice. And I'm very happy to still be a mentor to some people. And also not to take the feedback personally. That feedback doesn't define you. The feedback helps you to become a better person or a better leader or a better professional. And I think it's really important because, giving feedback's not easy, right?
Do you give feedback quite easily?
Yes, I try to give feedback and I had taken a class back in the US when I started to manage people about, coaching and saying, look, you need to give 3 positives before you give 1 constructive, because the human mind is just set up that, you'll be much more receptive to a constructive feedback after we've given you some positive. And look, it's true. If you reflect, I'm sure you also have, memories of when you receive feedback. Because everybody has strengths and everybody has opportunities to further develop. And specifically when you move up or you move lateral to a different job where you have a lot to learn, you can't do everything great or perfect the first time. So you've got to be, and I go back to the open mind, you've got to be open and act as a sponge to say, look, be humble, be honest, you don't know everything, and just learn by doing, but learn by also getting the feedback, because maybe you perceived that you would do a certain way, but the impact you create is actually different.
Yes.
Right? Which is also super important. You don't, you really need to create impact, and sometimes your perception is different from the impact you create. So if people don't tell you that, then you're sort of blindsided as to the impact of your actions. So it's super important to get feedback.
It's precious, And do you have in mind any failure in front of which you learned a lot, or you had to go outside of your limits?
Outside of my limits? It's a good question. Failures?
Because sometimes it's like hard moments help you to
maybe
to give the best.
Maybe a moment where when I returned to Switzerland, and I was I was the right hand for the head of a region, and then my next step was that I would be provided a GM job, and then there were change in management, and then things didn't really work out that way. And initially it was really hard, because I thought, look, that job I can do, and I thought it was agreed, and then things change, and that's okay. In the end, you don't do it there, you do it differently. And I'm also think that, look, what's meant to happen happens for a reason, right? And you pick yourself up, and then
wise.
and then another door open, But initially it's really hard, because you're sort of on a track, and then all of a sudden you're put off track. And it's probably, the first time this had happened to me, and you're like, oh, wow, what did I do
first time
for that to happen? But then again, you realize that actually that doesn't define me. It's just, a number of sort of situation that happened, and that you pick yourself up, and then you encounter different people and different opportunities.
Find
and
a different dynamic, and try to understand also. Or not, not easy.
Not necessarily. I think some things probably are just left better, not fully understood and rationalized, and then you just close that chapter and move on.
Yes, and and it's interesting, because it's I guess now you've made a pause in your career, and it's also a work in your resilience and maybe, have experience also on living this.
No, exactly. The last year has been a very good example of that, where you're not actually defined by all your, meetings the whole day and your business travels. And you actually...
Good to remember.
And you stop sort of, being a bit the hamster in the wheel, and then the wheel stops, and then you get off the wheel, and you said, okay, so now what? But I think, interestingly, I'm an optimistic person. I never get bored. I have a lot of things I've wanted to do. And after 24, 25 years, it was actually a great opportunity to take a deep breath, pause, and said, okay, I've just turned 50. What do I want to do with my life now?
Yes.
And
it's a question you already ask yourself?
Yeah, I've been asking myself, quite a bit.
But in a track,
Specifically now that I actually have the time to give that some thoughts, right? And so I'm really proud of what I've done in 2024. I had a number of things I wanted to achieve, because I said, look, I'm not going to be staying still and do nothing. So first one is really taking care of myself, and said, look, I want to feel good. So going to the gym every day and committing to some physical activity, which I had never really done. I mean, I'd done, but not in a consistent and rigorous way. So now I said, okay, let's just make sure I get fit and I really get in shape and preserve my health capital, right? And probably a realization of, we don't call that midlife crisis, but when you turn 50, you're like, look, I really just need to preserve what's good and just make sure I capitalize on that. So one of those realizations. So it's been great to have the time to actually do that and exercise
to
and do
this.
different. And really see the impact of that. And then, keeping in touch with people, I came across this MIT course on AI, artificial intelligence, and that really remained a bit of a black box for me because it's not something we had really leveraged or integrated in my last job. So I said, why not? Again, why not learn about that? I have the time. And a former team member actually was just telling me about that, and it really sort of made me curious to learn more. And so I signed up in the spring on that course, and it was really fascinating. 6 weeks to learn about.
It's a time to learn and to explore and to deep dive.
To broaden the horizon.
And I'm curious to know, was it a pause you planned, or was it something quite unexpected? And
we didn't really plan it.
Yes,
I didn't really plan it. So
and it happens, more and more, I guess.
Yeah, it happens more and more. No, exactly. And it's actually interesting, when you talk to people and in the pharma ecosystem, the number of people I said, look, I'm making a pause in my career, or even in the people in that MIT course. Or now I'm also doing a program with INSEAD. I'm actually going there next week again for international director program to build the competencies for board membership. And the number of people who are, I don't know how you call it, transition or making a pause and so on, and taking opportunity to do different things. It's actually more frequent than what I think we think or we assume.
Yes.
And is there because there is a taboo on that?
Yes,
I don't
not
know.
told. Yeah.
Maybe, maybe there is or maybe there is not. I don't know. But, for me...
I think there is because it's hard. It's a hard moment in life. And when you have exposed, corporate careers, you don't use to show your failures or limitations or
no, maybe I think but again
but it's I think yes, in reality I think it's an important moment in life, and it's not just a drawback.
no exactly. I think it's an opportunity to reflect, to pause and be thoughtful about the next phase of your life.
And the thing is I feel is also in today's world, I feel, it's personal opinion, but I feel more confident about leaders who took the time to think a bit about today's world, about themselves, about how they feel, to be able to lead again, because it moves so fast.
Yeah.
And I would say the people who don't make this in these days, in these coming years, it's hard to understand what's happening and to be able to get all the transitions.
No, I think you're right, and that's why when you have a super busy schedule.
When you're a hamster.
No, exactly. You're hamster in the wheel, and you don't. You just are guided by your professional, sort of meetings and commitments,
which is not where the society is going. And
no, exactly. You need to find that time for inspiration and reflection to say, okay, what's the impact I seek to create? What's my purpose? What does a successful life look like? What would I wish my legacy to be? And that's
how
I
do it?
And how do you go about it? And there again, I think the anchor in the family is so important, and I'm forever grateful for the support and the unwavering, sense of support and comfort I'm found from my husband and my kids. And that's why it's important that they are part of my professional life, because we talk about it and then what comes next and
the role of the team is also important now.
Yeah, exactly. And so in that sense, I feel I'm probably in a privileged situation, perhaps versus other people, and I'm again very grateful. But that time gives me opportunity to do some other things and also be more available for my husband and my kids. My kids are, one has finished university, another one is in university, the other one is still in high school. And it's actually great, such an anchoring moment of their life, to be there also for support, advice, or whenever they need me. So that has been really a great moment to do that. Yeah.
Will it change the way you will do your job tomorrow, you think?
Yeah. I think I've always tried to lead, combining achieving business results and leading people. I don't think that mix will really change. I mean, I love sort of, a commercial role, leading a P&L, leading a team, building a team, transforming, all of that I really enjoy doing, and it gives me lots of energy. So I think I would still continue to build on those two pillars and say also, people come first. If you dare to build a high-performing team and provide a psychologically safe environment, build trust, people will bring their best at work and then deliver results and create impact. So I think, that was true in the past 10 years. I was leading P&L and teams, and that I think will remain true for me. Making sure we pay attention to work-life balance, perhaps a little bit more, and the importance that, having feeling good in your body and in your mind, I think is so critical for people to be able to, so making sure I can continue to have some regular exercise and so on, despite busy schedule, and making sure that the team that work around me, would do the same.
Yes,
Taking care of the self-care, I think is really super important. But I don't think that pose has fundamentally changed my sort of leadership signature.
Okay. And when you're doing training to be a board member, what is it for? It's
continuing to develop. And I had that in any case, back in 23, when I was still in an operational role, I thought, okay, it would be good now to develop that sort of swim lane in a way, and develop that advisor or board membership capability. So I had planned to do that regardless. And of course, now I have more time to do it. And the Insight program is fantastic. So I've had 1 week in November, and I'm going back next week to Fontainebleau. And we have a great cohort of 40 people. And it's amazing, the opportunity that we have to learn. And actually, what was really very inspiring and a aha moment for me in November was the impact and the difference between an executive sort of leadership role and then moving to the boardroom. And as one of the professor, eloquently called it, you put nose in the tent and hands in the back. So you're there to seek information, to ask, to challenge, to advise, but not to do and not to act. That's the role of management. But when you've trained behaviors for 25 years to do just that,
you don't achieve.
You don't, exactly. And it's actually, you've got to learn to unlearn what you've done to really behave differently. So that has been, and through simulations and case studies, through small groups, they walk you through the journey. And it's amazing, the journey we had in like 4 days from the first case study to the last one where we had to do a board simulation. It was a fantastic learning experience. I really enjoyed that. And I think it's challenging me so much. And maybe that's also one thing I would bring back to an operational role to try to have perhaps more, continue to empower my team more and really try to lean back and say, look, yes, of course, we need to set the direction and we take accountability for results, but really empower the team more through coaching as opposed to showing up in the trenches. And so that's perhaps something I would try to tweak a little bit based on the INSEAD learning. Let's see. But I'd love the opportunity to join a board of a company and develop that. And bring advice to based on my operational knowledge and capability. So that's part of the plan.
Cool. Looking forward. And just to finish, I would like to talk about maybe your vision about the future of pharma. Because I guess also you projected yourself in the next, 15 years, 10 years, and the coming 10 years. And maybe, would you say the leadership in pharma is changing a bit in these years, or as the world is changing so fast? Would you say we need something also a bit different than the past 10 years?
Yes, I think, leadership in pharma, I think, the innovation is increasingly challenging.
Yes.
Right, to bring innovative treatment that really meet unmet needs for patients. I think actually what I've learned last year through AI and MIT and also through different case studies, I've realized actually a number of pharma companies are really experimenting with AI. I would say specifically in R&D.
Yeah.
Because when you see the productivity of this R&D investment, it's challenging for pharma, right? So leveraging AI and models and in the R&D process, hopefully can really help to bring better innovation faster. So I think that is really set to be revolutionized and transformed significantly.
Yes, and definitely it comes from the leaders.
From the companies that dare to do that.
Yes.
That dare to embrace it, right? And partners. So I think partnership as well will continue to, to be much more prominent. I think innovation
and
from...
maybe cultural mix also, because we need to marry big corporate company and smaller ones.
And smaller companies, no, exactly. So I think the run-up for finding innovative therapy also in rare disease, where we see more and more diseases where, we need to find treatments for perhaps a much smaller patient population. So of course now we hear a lot about, obesity and the impact of new drugs on the market. But I think what's also important to remember is, the rare disease and the opportunity that we have for impact significantly the life of patients whose life, is at stake. So I think we need to absolutely continue to look at that.
Yes, when I cut you, but yes, just continue.
No, go ahead.
No, because if we talk about rare disease, like the major things is like sustainability of healthcare system.
Yeah.
And then maybe you have also a reflection on this. And okay, I think it will come also from leaders from you to have this kind of solutions and to have this kind of
no, absolutely.
I think ideas and of new models. Maybe, because I don't know your feeling on this, but
current models are not sustainable, right? I think we all know that, and access to innovations remain very important. And there is such a disparity of access to medicines and innovations specifically across different countries and even in developed markets. So I think
we continue like this, or
I wish we could just bring the key actors around the table and continue the dialogue to make sure we push the lines and address the limits of the current system. But again, with the aging population and less people working and more people living much older, the current way of doing things will not work anymore. So the equation has changed. And
younger chronic disease diagnosed.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's so crucial that we bring all the key actors together and try to define common ways of addressing this. And it's a big, of course, it's a big topic and super complex, but we've got to be courageous.
That's why I'm asking you.
No, and because, we have to.
Because yes, I think yes, the question is not asked like openly, and I think it could come only from like courageous leaders.
But we need all the actors, including the politicians,
of course,
including the authorities, the governments,
and it's really complex, and it's really
it's very complex. But we need everybody to take responsibility and try different things. So I don't think we have the magical recipe yet, but we've got to keep trying and keep moving the line and keep talking about this to make sure that we make progress. So that's really what I hope, because we owe that to society actually.
Okay, you feel that?
Yeah.
Yes, you yes, because you told us you're a pharmacist, and I guess you're not like just a commercial leader.
No, exactly. No,
and,
I'm not.
Yes, that's why I'm asking also this, and how do you feel personally responsible on this topic?
Yeah. No, I feel accountable and responsible. So I think we.
Yes, you told me you owe this.
No, we owe this to society. We owe this to patients. But I think it's everyone needs to take the responsibility, right? And if you see even in some of the European countries where the time it takes to provide access to innovation, everybody needs to take responsibility. So we need to start now. We need to leverage the technology. We need to leverage the innovation. One topic which also I have quite to heart is the waste that we have, in healthcare. So there is so much waste. And not talking about only medication, right, medicines, but, so how can we focus on the patient pathway and, putting the patient at the center? And that sounds cliche, but it's really not. I think if we are really serious about, when a patient has a condition and is diagnosed and what's the, the pathway that the patient and every one of us have had some sort of experience with that, right? Sometimes good, sometimes not so good. And through our own experiences, if we could just reflect and try to be actor of change to make, the system a little bit better and the pathway a little bit better, right? Going from one doctor to the next and waiting, and how do you make sure you receive the best care and the medication that will best treat your conditions without also wasting resources. It's a big topic. So I think, we need to continue to talk about this, to raise awareness, and then we need to try to be actor of change and mobilize the different stakeholders through, professional associations, through patient groups, through engaging with healthcare professionals and governments and public policy to make sure, we move the lines and shape, a future environment where access to innovation will be more affordable and easier for patients.
Yeah, for society. Yeah,
for society. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Julie. Yes, I think it's precious to have some insights. It's interesting to have also the real mindset and of these leaders and understanding where they want at least to to go, where they want to try to do.
Thank you. I think look, I have a very strong sense of purpose. I'm really proud of what the pharmaceutical industry delivers. I'm really sad actually when I hear all the criticism and the reputation that sometimes is talked about. And I think, again, we should never compromise for integrity. We have a very strong ethical responsibility. And I, wish that everyone can take it seriously and create a better environment for patients to live longer and healthier lives. That's, I think, our collective responsibility. And I feel strongly about that. And I feel very proud about that, about the impact we can have. Yeah.
Nice to see. And maybe last question, if you have one advice to give for young leaders who start and who don't know?
Oh yeah, I would have a lot of advices to share.
Or many
not
if you
to
want.
give, but to share. I would say be curious, dare, seek help. What's the risk you take?
Yes.
And make sure you create an environment around you that actually you will feel confident that you can have the opportunity to progress and to learn and achieve. So I think it's really a win-win, and it goes both ways, right? You've got to lean in and put a stick in the ground and go for it and put yourself outside of the comfort zone. But, you cannot do it alone. Of course, you need to have the environment around you that would give you the opportunity. And that's really what I've witnessed and lived throughout my career. And I think that's the advice I would provide. When I first moved to the US, I was in a headquarter building, in a corporate building, which was quite intimidating. And I was sitting in a cubicle, and I could have sit in that cubicle the whole day, right? So I chose not to, and I chose to engage with people, to organize meetings, to learn what people would
go out
do.
and meet people.
Exactly, and meet people, right? And guess what? People always said yes. Yeah, sure, I can give you 20 minutes to talk. Even a person who would be president of an area of the business where I felt very humble and actually even shy sometimes to go and talk to those people. But there, and people will very, very often, if not always, just open the door and share with you. And that's how I think you build a network. And that's also where you create opportunities. Yeah. So, and that's really the advice I give my kids. Yeah. I said, build a network, dare to ask, what's the risk you take? Not much, actually. That people don't respond? Okay, and that happens occasionally. But that's okay, then you carry on and continue. And that's the way you can really define the path you also want to be on. So really go for it. And keep optimism.
Yes, and it's also a way to know where you want to go, because sometimes you learn on the way.
Exactly.
By meeting
sometimes
people.
You don't know, right? I often say, when I started at my first job, I never thought I'd be a GM one day. I didn't think, I didn't think I would be, I would be a GM one day. That was not even really what I wanted. But that was sort of shaped, after one opportunity and the other, and I realized what those jobs were. And I said, oh, wow, that sounds interesting. So I'd like to go for it. But perhaps the last advice and what I would leave you with is, in today's world, and my kids would smile because I tell them that often. I tell them
If they
that
listen.
often. If they will listen, is show respect and kindness. Right. You can be in a tough job. You can be in a difficult situation. You can have something hard to do or frustrating.
But others too.
Exactly. And you never know what's going on in people's lives. Right. So don't judge too quickly. And then just be kind. You can be demanding and wanting to achieve, but you can do it with kindness and respect people. In whatever situation, that's even if people have a different perspective or a different point of view, respect it and actually learn from it.
Yes, maybe you don't understand something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So let's see.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you so much for this open-hearted conversation.
Well, thank you, Nathalie. It was great, and I really enjoyed this interaction with you. And thank you very much.
If our auditors want to ask you questions, I invite them to comment on LinkedIn. But do you have any other way to direct them?
No, I'm quite active on LinkedIn and quite up to date. So I would say don't hesitate to reach out to me on LinkedIn, and we'd be very glad to get in touch. Okay. So if you'd like to continue the conversation, if you had questions or comments or reflections, please do engage and do share. I think there is so much we all can learn, from each other.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Nathalie.
Bye.
Yeah. Cheers.
Thank you for listening to this episode. It was great to share this story about connection, inspiration, and creating a positive legacy. Don't forget to subscribe to stay updated on future episodes, and talk to you soon. À bientôt.